Today I'm going to film the project recipe that we're making for our July crop here in Kaysville. You are totally welcome to come in person and join us if you are local. And if you're not local, or if you're watching this video way later, you can get any of the supplies that you need for the project on my website. The project recipe we're making in July comes from this United We Stand collection, which came out in 2021. It really works great with any of the patriotic colors and papers and collections you might want to choose from. A couple things I'll mention before we get going. First of all, this flag banner border punch has been out for a while now, and I can't guarantee it's going to be around for a lot longer. So it's super cute. I really like it. It's perfect for pages like this. And when you go to make this project, that may not be available to purchase anymore. So if that is the case, you might have to find something else to use as your border punch or make your own banners in another way. The second thing is the project recipe instruction sheet. If you need to get this, if you don't have it already, if you are not a Creative Memories advisor, you can get it from your advisor, or if you don't have an advisor, I'm happy to be yours, and you're welcome to email me or just ping me with your email address. I will send you the instructions for this project and add you to my newsletter as well. Another thing you could consider is signing up as a Creative Memories advisor, where you get access to all sorts of fun exclusive content. And I would be happy to talk to you about that if that's an option you're interested in. So let's jump into this project. Like I said, the collection this originally came from was called United We Stand. It's a patriotic collection. It's a couple of years old. This particular collection is retired, but there have been some updated versions of similar collections more recently. The one I'm going to use today is called Stars and Spirit. It's a really cute paper pack and has some super cute matching stickers. So this is the collection we're going to use today. And normally when I do a project recipe, I don't pay too much attention to like what exact colors or patterns are used in the example. I just find some papers that I like together, maybe colors or designs that match my mood, whatever I want to work with at the moment, or the pictures I'm going to use for the layout. I have not printed pictures for this layout yet, so I'm actually going to go with as close as I can get to what their example was, but with papers coming from a different collection. So what we're gonna need is 3 sheets of the decorative paper. And I want one that's gonna be a background, kind of like this one. You can see in the piece layout, it's showing white where the background is gonna be. And that's actually gonna be, in their example, a light blue. And I'm gonna try to find something kind of similar in this other pack. There's a lot of good options. You do not have to do it this way. I think this would be great with all sorts of other colors as well. This would be really fun for a birthday. But I think I'm going to use this one as my background paper. On this other side, it's actually a solid color paper. And that is the Starry Night Shimmer paper. So I've got a sheet of that as well. I'm not sure if you can see that pretty shimmer, but this is a fun paper. It's kind of lightweight, not heavy like a cardstock. More similar to the weight of a designer paper. And then we need 2 more designer papers and a sheet of the white shimmer cardstock as well. So for the other designs, I'm gonna look for something that has kind of the multicolor pattern going on, but that also has on the back of it preferably something dark blue, because we're gonna use both sides of that sheet for some different elements on the layout. Yeah, these papers are so cute. Okay, I think that one's gonna be the winner for me, because we've got the fireworks on the one side, and then the back of that page is a really mild dot pattern in a dark blue color, which I think goes pretty well with the way they have their layout done there. And I'll just kind of match that vibe. And the last decorative sheet we're gonna need is for these pieces that are primarily red, but also these circles that are gonna be the back side of the same sheet. you need to kind of consider, I think this one's gonna be it. And you'll see the back side, the one side is all the red stripes. The other side is more of a flag pattern, but I think I'm gonna aim for these circles to be the dark blue stars, so I can show you how to line up your cutting pattern so you're getting those instead of maybe like some mix or the red stripes, or you could do vice versa from a paper like this. Okay, so that's all the papers we need. Let's set the rest of this stack aside. And if you're not super familiar with project recipes, this is how they all kind of look. The designs on all of them are totally different and are usually geared toward the particular tools and collections that came out at the time that it was designed. This one has, like I said, the 3 different cut papers plus the 2 backgrounds, and you can tell where the pieces for a particular page are going to go based on the colors and the letters. One tip I'll give is if you have some sticky notes handy, you might want to grab those and label your pieces as you cut them so you don't wonder later, is this piece A or piece J or whatever. So good tip to have some sticky notes and a pen or pencil handy so you can quickly label those pieces. You will not see me labeling today. I am an old hat. The project recipes are old hat for me, I guess. I've been doing them for a long time. I love them. And if I ever get confused about a piece, I usually just guess or measure to make sure I know which is which. And you can probably hear in the background, but I've got my snorty bulldog hanging out with me today. She's having a treat right now, and she's making a lot of noise. Hopefully it's not too distracting. Okay, let's get started. So we set aside our 2 pieces for the background. We're not going to cut those ones. I want to make sure they are out of the way and don't get messed up. We are going to cut the other 3 papers. This white shimmer paper is going to be primarily used for photo mats. These other 2 are going to be all the decorative pieces all over the paper, all over the page layout. Some tools we're going to need, besides the banner punch, our 12-inch trimmer. You don't have to use the Creative Memories brand 12-inch trimmer, but I love this one. It's really great. If you don't have a 12-inch trimmer you adore already, that is a good one to check out. Custom cutting system. This is the middle circle from the set of 3 circle patterns, and we're going to use all 3 blades to cut out different sizes of circles with this today. The custom cutting system mat. The material is the same, even if you've had this for a long time. It's a self-healing mat, but it has come in some smaller sizes in the past. This one is the 13 by 13 mat, and that's the current size. Although I know the latest version of it has some slightly different markings than what you'll see online. Other tools will be our tape runner. We're going to use regular tape runner and also repositionable. That's the green inside. And it doesn't have this in the list, but I'm going to also use my scissors because there's some parts we're going to cut apart, and you could do that with your 12-inch trimmer. I just think it'll be a little less unwieldy with the scissors in hand. Okay, so setting a few of these things aside for now, I'm just going to start with the first page from our designer paper that we're going to cut. And we decided this one that's red on the one side, and then the stars and stripes on the other side is going to be our designer paper number 1. And I told you I want to try to leave these reverse circles, which I don't know if you can read it on the video, but 2 of these circles will be reversed, meaning most of the pieces cut out will be from this side, but a couple pieces cut out will actually be shown on this other side. So I want those reverse pieces to be the blue stars and stripes. So I'm going to actually start cutting the borders. I'm going to punch 2 strips of borders. I'm going to start on the side that is red and white stripes. With the border punches, it's Maybe takes a little bit of learning to use, but you can really start anywhere. If you want to start just at one end so you don't have to go back and forth, there's a little black mark on each side, and you can line up one side or the other of your paper to start there. But if you were to start punching just right in the middle of your paper, you can still line up the design so it matches. So I am going to start this first black line. You just punch all the way down, and then this design that just got punched out is going to match up with the design on the border punch. So you want to slide your paper all the way to the back guide, the edge that's going to hold that straight, and make sure the punch design covers up the blue and all you're seeing through is silver. And then just keep going, and like I said, you can go back and forth. It's got this same design on both sides, so if you started punching in the middle of your paper and you needed to go back, that is not a problem at all. Just trying to get them nice and lined up. Getting pretty close to the end. Looks like this is going to be the last punch. Last punch with this border, if I can hold it in place. Okay, so that one has come off. I've got just a little bit of a tail. I'm gonna just pull that off. You could trim it with scissors if something like that happens. You can see that nicely lined up with itself, and we're gonna use this in a couple different places on the layout. And then we're gonna just do the same border punch again. And I'll go the other direction just so you can see it kind of works the same way. And again, I'm lining up with this little black line so that it's all the way to the edge of the paper. And I don't have to do back and forth in both directions. But if that's not where you start, it's no big deal to just line your border back up and punch out the other part too. We're going to punch out some of these borders using the designer paper number 2 as well, so we get some dark blue borders as well as the red ones. We're going to have both colors of these flag banner borders on the page. Okay, so there's my 2 red ones, and you can see from the other side we mostly punched away this red and white stripes, and I'm going to set aside the border punch. We will use it again. You can see there's a little punch junk left over. Sometimes it has really cute pieces in it, like these itty bitty stars that you might want to save. Sometimes it's just trash, and you can decide what you want to do with that. Throw it away or keep it. For the rest of this paper, we know we want a few pieces of the circle coming out of this blue, and then we've got another bunch of circles that are going to be just shown from the front side that are red. So I'm going to cut out these 2 circles first. And then I will make sure I've got those in the right spot. So time for the custom cutting system. And I'm not exactly following their instructions in order, but there is a set of instructions that walks you through. For this piece, cut this, and then it tells you how to label each of your pieces as you're punching them out. So those 2 banners that we just punched out are pieces A and B. I'm gonna skip piece C for just a second and cut out piece D and E. And it shows you right here for piece D, we want to cut using the outside of the small circle. Goodness, I didn't even bring up the small circle. And then the inside of the medium circle. So I did actually need 2 different ones. I just didn't realize. You know what? I'm gonna improvise because I don't want to have to go get out a bunch more tools. Okay, so stop what I just said. I'm gonna cut out piece D next, so I make sure I have enough for that. Piece D is a photo mat that's gonna go behind this picture. So this picture is gonna get double matted. It's gonna have the white shimmer, and then under that also a piece of the red. So that's gonna be a 6 1/4 by 4 1/4, and then it's gonna have 6x4 white, and then you'll trim your photo down just a little bit to be matted on that. And we need to trim it the wide ways so that we've got 6 inches going on across here. I'm sorry, 6 1/4 inches. So not just 6, 6 1/4. This strip is going to be all these circles right here, F, F, F. So they're all called F because they're all the same size. They're all going to be cut out the same way. We're going to cut out some circles there. Cut 6 1/4 that direction. This one is now going to be 4 1/4. So there's my 4 inches, and it just goes 1 mark beyond that for 4 1/4. So we've got that mat there. And if you lined it up a little better than I did, or if you even like the red, white, and blue, that's still a very cute photo mat that you could use that on your page as is. I think I will stick with the red side. So that was piece D, the photo mat. I'm gonna put my straight trimmer away. We're gonna cut out a bunch of circles now. Okay, so like I said, I guess I didn't read the instructions super closely. And I ended up with only bringing out my middle size circle. And that's okay with me. Let's see. D and E are the bigger ones. D would be this one for a photo over here. It's going to mat a 4-inch photo that you cut into a circle. And E would be this background for this Happy 4th of July or whatever sticker or title you decide to put there. Maybe another embellishment too. Lots of things would be cute with that. I'm going to cut out my other ones first. I'll come back to D and E, but we already know we're going to cut out a bunch of this F shape, which is going to be cut in half to make the circle banner background. So for all of the F pieces, we want to use the inside of the medium circle using the red blade. I'm going to show you real quick what the difference is in the blades and why you might want to use one versus another. So I'm not sure how well this is going to show up on the camera, but each blade is a little bit of a different distance, cuts a little different distance from the pattern. And when I say pattern, what I mean is this plastic blue circle or whatever shape you're using. The red, you can see the blade is closest to the feet, so it's going to cut the closest to the pattern, whether on the inside or the outside of the pattern. The green is kind of halfway. The blue is the farthest away. So most space there. So you're getting about a 1/4 inch difference in the different circles when you go with each different size. We're going to do, this is again the middle size circle. We're going to cut out a total of 5 circles that will be letter F using the inside, so this track, with the red blade. And Creative Memories has had this custom cutting system like forever. The circles have not changed in probably at least 20 years. I don't know if it's been around 20 years, but pretty much since these circles came out, they have been the same. The blades have changed a little bit, not the spacing and sizing, but just the way they work and the shape of them to make them a little more user-friendly. So we're going to start by putting our little feet into the track of the inside. Make sure both of your feet are in there, because sometimes what I almost just did and what I've seen people do is they'll get just one of the 2 feet in there and then it doesn't cut your paper, it just rips it. So that was a good nice cut for our first one. The patterns do have some little non-slip feet. As much as possible, you want to keep those little feet on your paper to hold it still. And then make sure you get your blade in where it's supposed to go. Do your cuts. We'll have a little bit of extra from this paper. I'm cutting mine a little closer to each other than they did in their cutting guide. If you move your blade all the way around and your piece doesn't detach from the rest of the paper, you can always use some scissors to just trim the extra, or if you have not moved your pattern yet, you can put your blade back in place and just touch it up. But you can see when I'm finishing, it's clearly releasing. The paper is kind of starting to spin. This is just scraps now. I need one more from this piece in that same size. I'll just come down in this corner and get it from here. Okay, so I'm purposely not pushing very hard at the end so you can see what happens if, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but there's a little part I did not cut at all. So I haven't moved the pattern. I can just scoot my blade back into that area and make sure it does get cut all the way through. Or like I said, if you did take your pattern up and it's not quite detached, you could just grab some scissors and snip that little area that got missed. So now I have my 5 letter F piece circles. They'll be up there. And now I want to cut my D and E. And I want to cut those on the blue side. And since I did not read my instructions very well, I will have to decide what I want to do with this. Because if I cut on the outside of this, I'm not going to be able to get a second big circle. It will be too big no matter which blade I use to get two big circles on the outside track of this one. So I'm actually just going to go red blade on the outside over here. And that will be my really big one. It will actually be bigger for the mat for this picture. So I will have to measure before I actually put my picture in there, how big it's gonna be, before I decide to like cut that photo. I might end up matting that photo a second time if it's just gonna be too big for a photo that I would cut for that. So it's fine, go with it. So outside of the red, and I don't know if you can tell, but I put my pattern pretty close to the edge of the paper when I'm cutting with the red blade, because the red blade cuts fairly close to the pattern, as in like 1/8 of an inch from where the edge of the pattern is. But it's not 0, so you don't want to put it all the way to the edge. And a good way to tell if you're going to have enough room is to stick your blade in the track and then use that to help line up your paper to make sure you've got enough. Okay, so this is going to be my big mat for my one photo on the right side. It's going to be a little hefty, a little extra large compared to the example. That's how I do things though, just whatever happens, happens. And then let's see. So for this other one over here, since this is the pattern I have out, I'm not gonna go get the other one out at this point. If you are smarter and more prepared than I am, you can have the correct size circles. But I'm just gonna cut another one like this, and you can see it is not gonna be a complete circle because I am on scraps, basically. Okay, so there's some scraps, probably done with that piece. So this is gonna be big, again. This is big like this one over here. But here's kind of my idea, and we'll see how it comes together when I actually put the papers together. This one over here overlaps a little bit. I'm thinking maybe I can like overlap it even extra. And then this one over here can stand out a little bit more. So that's the plan at the moment. Just do some extra overlapping. And when I line these papers up, I wanna make sure my stars are pointing the right way. Sometimes like a pattern like a stripe might not bother you if it goes multiple different ways on your paper. But sometimes when you're cutting out your patterns, you got to make sure you're going the direction that's going to make sense for what's printed on them. Okay. I believe that is all with the custom cutting system. So I'm going to close up my blades, put that away. And we are going to move on to designer paper number 2, which was the one for this layout I chose with the fireworks on the one side and the dark blue dots on the other side. And for this one, we're going to punch some banners, and then we're also going to do some cutting just with the straight trimmer. So here are the instructions for this one. We're going to punch 1, 2, 3 sets of banners, and all of those banners are going to be coming on the blue side. And then we have a couple blue strips. That's what these little ones over here that say reverse. They're going to be dark blue strips. They're going to sit right here across the bottom of the page. And then we've got some wider strips that are going to be out of the patterned fireworks side, which are going to be at the top and the very bottom of each side of the page. So let's get to punching. I personally usually prefer to punch with the side up that I'm actually going to use, because sometimes the punches leave a little bit of, I don't know, frayed edges almost on the underneath side of your paper. You probably have seen that if you've used any scrapbook punches. It kind of happens a little bit with everything sometimes. The newer punches usually cut a little bit cleaner, and then as your punches start to get a little worn out, they may fray a little bit more. So there's my first blue banner. I'm going to cut 3 of these, all the same. Just lining up with this start line. That's the black line at the bottom of your punch. Okay. Got a little bit stuck. Released pretty easy, but you can see I got a little part that frayed, and that caused it to jam a little bit. So I am gonna trim off that frayed part with my scissors. These are just regular Creative Memories all-purpose scissors, which I have had forever. They are like the best scissors of my life. So when you get a cut that's not very clean, sometimes that causes the punch to jam. And as you can see, I just kind of tapped it a little bit and it came undone. Wasn't too much of an issue. Punch one more time. Get our third one in there. And this one I mentioned, you might want to like be careful of your patterns and designs. But I felt like with this firework pattern, there wasn't really a direction to it, so it didn't matter which side of the paper we punched and cut. But a lot of times you'll want to watch for things like words or stars or hearts or anything that really could have a specific direction, any picture or design. Okay, so there's all the punches. We will not be punching any more of the banners. I'm gonna put that off to the side, but we'll be doing some more trimming with the paper trimmer. So we've got a set of different strips that are all gonna be 12 inches long. And I'll mention all of these borders we just punched out, both the blue and the red, are all 12 inches long as well. So we've got 2 pieces that are 1 3/4 inch, 2 pieces that are 1 inch each. Those are all going to be showing on the fireworks side. And then 2 little skinny pieces that are 1/2 inch wide each. This is the edge that we punched along. Mine is pretty clean, actually, but sometimes is a little bit jagged after you do a punch along the whole side. So if we've got some extra, like it has here with the little gray hash marks, that's going to be scraps when we're done with this paper. So I'm going to let that scrap side be the side that I punched the borders on. And instead I'm going to cut my little strips starting from the other side. So lining up at the 1/2 inch mark, which is the first in either direction. You can measure up to about 2 inches on this side and longer in this direction. Either way, just whatever you prefer. Some people like to use their trimmer like I have it here with the blade on your right side. Some people prefer to do it the other way with the blade on the left side. Just up to you. Works both directions. So that's 1/2 inch strip in the dark blue. And I mentioned the tip about putting your sticky notes on so you can label the pieces with their letters, which is very helpful, especially while you're first getting started. The other thing I'll say is when I cut my pieces, I like to set them aside on the pattern, like with the pattern up that I'm going to use, because then I can quickly see which piece is getting used for what. Okay, so those were my 1/2 inch pieces. I'm cutting the 1 inch pieces now. That's the darker line. And like I said, there's not really a direction for fireworks on this print. So that's nice. I don't have to be too picky about which direction I'm cutting my paper. And then I've got 2 more strips. They're going to be 1 3/4 wide and 12 inches long. And then a second one that is that same size. And the 3/4 inch mark is actually this last black mark. 1 3/4 inches, I mean. So here we are. And then we're gonna have this little bit of, looks like a little more than 1 inch, maybe 1 1/4 inch left over for scrap. You can use it for something else. If you find something you want to embellish on this page later, you definitely can. So there's our cute fireworks. And then the last sheet we're gonna cut is white shimmer cardstock. So I think I mentioned this before, but they're pretty much mostly photo mats. We've got a little bit of extra that will be scraps, and then one little banner piece where in the example is journaling. So we'll cut all of those pieces from the white shimmer cardstock. We're gonna cut 3 4x6 photo mats. And it looks like we're cutting 6 inches wide and then 4, 4, and 4. 6 inches will be half the paper. I'm gonna line it right up with that 6 inch mark. And then I will rotate this and cut the separate 4 inch sections. And once you cut 2, your third one should be that size. If you cut and end up with something a slightly different size, usually it goes together just fine regardless. A lot of times I feel like I don't exactly follow the project recipe. Maybe I cut something a little bit wrong, or maybe it just doesn't work for how I'm trying to put it together with my stuff. And then I'll use a slightly different measurement, which is fine. Nobody's gonna look at the original and compare and say, hey, you did that wrong. So this last section we're cutting is 4 1/4, 4 1/4 wide. That's a scrap now. And we're gonna cut 2 pieces into squares. So we'll have 4 1/4, 4 1/4, and then we'll cut a little banner. And because this was a little bit bigger than 4, you can see that the last piece I've got is smaller, because obviously 4 1/4, and then 4 1/4, and then what's left is going to be less than that with the 12 inch start. We don't need that whole amount. They're actually suggesting just a 4 inch by 1 3/4. I'm not gonna bother with that little bit off. I'm gonna leave mine 4 1/4 as it is, and go ahead to the 1 3/4 mark, where I will cut that banner. It will be a tiny bit longer than theirs, but I don't feel like for this piece that tiny bit of fussiness is going to make a difference. So this is going to be a little like cutout banner. There are a bunch of ways you can do that. My probably favorite, easiest method is if you have a square cutter punch, to just line up your square and punch it that way. But I didn't bring that out today. So instead, I'm gonna kind of just eyeball mark with a pen, or maybe I'll measure where my middle spot is. So this is about my midline right here. And I just drew on that with some pen because I'm gonna cut that piece off. I'm gonna line it up on this 45-degree angle and put my corner right on this line where the blade is going to cut. So line up my edge of the paper there, cut it to about half. It looks like not quite half. And then flip it over and do the exact same thing to try to match them up. So 45 degrees again. On that 45-degree line. And just cut up until my blade pretty much meets that spot I cut before. I tend to be a little conservative when I'm doing this with the blade, since you can't exactly see where it's ending up. It is easier to finish your cut with some scissors so it matches up nicely in that corner. However, if you are comfortable doing this just with scissors, go for it. You don't have to use the 12-inch trimmer. I just like it that helps me line it up very nicely so it's nice and even. A lot of times if I'm doing scissors only, I end up with one side that's quite a bit longer than the other. Okay, we're done with cutting. Now we're gonna start assembling. If you have labeled all of your pieces with sticky notes, you can just match up the ABCs with this design here that shows you like piece A is going to actually get cut up into small segments and then added as a border around these circles. Piece B, same, and then all the other letters where they go. For the first few pieces, I am going to use my regular tape runner. And then I'll get out the repositionable tape runner when it's time to do the banners, because that's what that's going to be most useful for. Oh, there are a couple little cuts we did not do yet. So let's do that real quick. First of all these letter F pieces where we cut out 5 of the same, they're actually all getting cut in half, and we're going to use them across the top of both pages as a background for our blue banners. Just because this has a little bit of a pattern, I'm going to try to cut all of mine so they're striping down, like straight up and down. If you don't like that, you definitely don't have to do it that way. If you don't have a pattern, maybe that doesn't matter, or if you're not picky about it, you can cut them all whichever direction you like. I'm just trying to measure and see how big is this and where's the halfway point going to be. But in reality, it doesn't matter that much if I get it really exact, because the way it's going to get tucked under that banner, if they're not exact half and halves, oh, that's pretty close. I'll just tuck them a little bit more and they'll be fine. And the way I'm determining what's half using this trimmer is I'm just lining up this piece, and then here's this central line where I know that the blade cuts, and in each direction it measures the same. So I'm just kind of going, okay, here's my 1 inch, and I'm going to hang over the 1 inch a little bit. And so I know I've got about the same amount on each side of the blade, and that'll cut it about half and half. You can certainly get fussier with it and measure more exactly if you like. Or you can do this kind of cutting. Whoops, I just realized that one's going to be way off. Okay. You can also cut with scissors, use your personal trimmer, whatever works for you. Okay, so I've got all my circles cut, so when they go on the page, they're gonna have the stripes up and down. And then the other thing we're gonna cut, and I'm not sure how jazzed I am about the instructions for this, but for our banners, they suggest we've got like one that's gonna go across each one intact. We're not gonna cut those ones. We've got one that's gonna get cut in a pretty straightforward way with a segment that goes across this picture, and then a segment that goes across this picture. So 6 inches over here, 4 inches over here. And then these red banners that are going to get cut into little pieces to go around the circles. So in the instructions for cutting these red banners, it says to cut them so they are, depending on the piece, either 2 or 3 flags wide. And as I look at the picture, how it laid out, I'm like, that is not how they did that for this layout. Because you can see, if you cut 2, sometimes you're gonna get a star and a stripe, but sometimes you're gonna get 2 stripes. And there's not a lot of that going on. So, let me think about that for a minute while we cut this piece. And pull out that arm, because we're going to do one that was 4 inches wide for the smaller photo. You could even do it a little bit wider, because I don't know if you remember, but our mat here was 4 1/4. So you have some extra to play with on this one if you wanted it bigger. There's 4 inches. It's cute. I like that. 6 inches, I don't love starting with that, so let's go this way on the 6 inches. There's 6. 6 is gonna cut in the middle of this. You know what? Since I do have the extra to play with, let's snag more of that star in there. I like that better. So yeah, just maneuver it to the portion you wanna keep. And then we've got some little bit of scrap piece that we're not gonna use. Yeah. I think I like that where we see a little bit more of the stars. That's cute. Okay. You could also do that kind of cutting with your scissors if that's easier. And I think that's how I'm going to cut these ones apart. Like I said, I'm not totally feeling the idea of cutting apart in little 2 pieces. So I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to start putting together pieces and then set these aside to cut when I'm actually ready to lay out those circles. Especially since I cut my circles out in a slightly different size for those 2 pieces. It might not quite work out the way they were planning anyways. Okay, so we're gonna lay out our fireworks. They go across the top and bottom. If you're following the letters, if you have your sticky notes, we've got pieces K and L across the top. They're the ones that are a little bit wider. M and N at the bottom that are a little bit smaller. And I'm just gonna use my regular tape runner for these. I don't use a lot of tape runner. I tend to use more on cards because people handle cards. But on my scrapbook pages that are gonna go in a page protector, unless something's really wonky, I don't feel like it needs to be super glued down. It just needs to be secure enough. So that's about how much tape runner I use for a strip like that. Not always the same, but. just as an idea, I see people often running their tape runner down the whole length of their paper that they're putting together, which maybe feels more secure, but they'll do that, but all the way down the whole 12 inches. And to me, that just is a lot of tape runner to use, where this much tape runner will hold your pieces in place. You just need to secure your corners or edges mostly. And like I said, if you're putting it in a page protector, the middle is not going to move around a lot. If you are going to do some sort of like interactive element to your scrapbook pages, those pieces should be a little more secure, a little more taped down. Yeah, just because they're going to get handled a little bit more. Okie dokie. Got our blue banners that are going to go up here. And under the blue banners are going to be these red circles, half circles. And here's where I was saying, hey, if your size, like if you aren't exactly half, you can do some tucking. So if your circles ended up a little bit of an odd shape, you can do some of this and get them all under, just to line them up as tall or whatever as you want. You could definitely do a variety of colors for these circles. They don't have to all be the same color, but they would maybe be cute if you wanted to do some red and some white. Mine just, I cut them all out from that one red sheet. Okay. And I'm just double checking that I'm not doing anything super weird. Because I ended up with pretty equal halves on all my circles, I'm just gonna line them right up along the edge. I don't have anything significantly different. And you can maybe see I've got a little bit of gap. So just with the size of these circles, it doesn't quite go end to end all the way across the 12 by 12 paper, which is fine because some of that's gonna get covered up by this blue banner piece in a sec anyway. But we'll secure those down. And I am not going to get fussy about a lot of tape runner on these. And I'll show you why in just a sec. I'm going to go start at my two ends. You've got 5 little circles that are going on each page, 5 half circles, I should say. Pretty much get it right up to the top. I'll maybe move that one in a sec, but that one's going to be basically the center. It looks like I did not center it very well. I'm going to try to leave kind of an equal tiny bit of space between each of these. It's like not probably even 1/8 of an inch gap between each one. It's pretty small. Okay, so there's that side. I'm not worried about them flicking up a tiny bit. I'll do the same thing on this other side. I really like the Stars and Stripes paper. That one's pretty. It's a good patriotic paper. Oh, and my regular tape runner just ran out. So, although regular tape runner is a tiny bit more secure and permanent than the repositionable, for the most part, the way they work is the same. There are not very many things that I would only use regular tape runner for and not repositionable. For me, they are mostly interchangeable. So I will use the repositionable for the rest of my pieces on this page. If it's bothering you, if you don't like the repositionable, if you don't have it, you can definitely just pop in a new tape runner refill when your cartridge runs out. They're quick and easy to replace. Okay, now for these blue banners, I am definitely going to use the repositionable tape, and this is why. Repositionable tape is tiny clear dots instead of the white segments of tape. It is ideal for things that have a little bit of a pattern or punch out, anything that's delicate. And for repositionable tape on something like this, yes, I am going to pretty much cover it up. It's also going to help secure those circles down where I did not add very much adhesive to them at all. So, repositionable, tiny, tiny dots. If you can see the little shiny dots there. And you can see I let it get all over this mat. If you have one of the silicone non-stick mats, that's great for the adhesive also. Or you could do it on top of some scratch paper or on something else that you're going to adhere down in a minute. You might just want to take full advantage of that adhesive. Okay, and I'm going to line this up so that the top of my little star banners, that's the low point, comes up to that seam where the red and red circles meets the fireworks. And then if there's any extra adhesive showing through, just give it a little rub and those extra pieces come right off. It's fantastic. That's the very best thing about repositionable adhesive. And of course, as the name implies, it is a little less tacky, sticky. So if you do need to move something around, if you are feeling less than confident about where you want your pieces to go on your layout, or if you are going to like a color or something else, then you can certainly use the repositionable as a way to avoid having something become permanent very quickly. From what I understand, the repositionable adhesive does become more tacky over time, meaning it becomes a little more permanent, but I have taken apart things that I've made with repositionable tape even like more than a year later. So I know that is a possibility. Okay, so I've got those nice and lined up. You can see a few little dots showing through. I want to get rid of that stuff. Cute, nice, I like it. This is such a fun layout. So that's almost all of our background. We do have these little dark blue pieces, the strips we cut out. And I will adhere these down. Where this one isn't like a really delicate piece, I wouldn't necessarily need to use repositionable tape runner, but that's what I've got now, and it will work just fine. If you haven't tried repositionable, I would recommend that you give it a try. It's different, that's for sure. Some people don't love it, but it's perfect for certain things, like exactly what you need. Another option for the delicate pieces, if you're doing something with like laser cutouts or words and other things that are small, is the precision point adhesive that's more like a glue pen. Now that one is permanent immediately, and it's a wet adhesive, so there's some drawbacks there where it can make your paper a little wavy if you use too much of it. Okay, so here's my two pieces, my two backgrounds, ready to go side by side. When I put this in an album, it might bug me if I thought it was going to line up exactly like this, and you can see there's like a tiny, like this one's a tiny bit wider on that bottom strip where like these don't line up exactly. I'm a weirdo about things lining up. But I feel like with the little bit of gap that's going to be there when it gets in the album pages, you're not going to see that tiny difference. Of course, if that bothered you, you could reposition things and trim them up so they matched exactly. Okay, we're ready to start putting our photo mats down, and that also includes those round pieces that are going to get the banner cut up sections. I'm going to save those for last, and we're going to just start with, on the layout, it's got these green boxes for all of the shimmer paper that we cut up. So I'm just going to kind of throw those in the area they're going to get used. I'm going to do a little bit of overlapping here. Gosh, that shimmer paper is very, very pretty. I love this. I I mentioned, I really like to have stuff line up. So when I've got like two pictures that are going to be kind of close to each other, even across the 2 pages, I always like to make sure they're like starting at the same height, for example. Or you could also match up your gaps. So they might not be the same height or start at the same or end at the same spot because these are different size papers. But however you like to line that up. This is going to be here. It's also going to have a secondary background with this red. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, it's going to be like that. And then here are our banner pieces with the blue that we cut into the segments, a 6-inch and a 4-inch piece. They're going to go across the top of the shimmery white. Cute, cute. My little banner is going to hang out over here. This circle is going to happen over here. Trying to decide which way to line the stars up. That's probably the right way. Yeah, hard to say from the back of the page. And this circle is much bigger than the one they have in their example. I just cut a much larger circle because the pattern I used was bigger. And then on this other side, we've got this Mondo huge banner or circle. I still really like the blue, dark blue stars for this, so I think I'm okay with it. And I'm just going to do some extra tucking to obscure the fact that that is not a complete circle. Just trying to line it up and see how I'm going to like this once it's actually in there. In their example, they do have their banner piece touching right up against this red photo background. And theirs, because of the proportions, looks more like a, what do they call those, button or posy. Maybe posy is the right word. The way I've got this, that is not going to be the effect here at all. So I might think about that before I adhere it down. But I think I'm good with what's going on over here. And I think I'm going to go ahead and attach the pieces on that page. I'll set this other one aside while I'm figuring out the red circles. But I'm just going to go ahead with all my adhesive and sticking with the repositionable on this banner so it gets good and on there. And this is just going all the way across right at the top. I'll line up the tops of my banners. Gosh, the dark blue is so pretty against that white. And you probably can't even see where the adhesive is going on the video on the back of the shimmer paper because it's a little bit shimmery. I mean, the paper is shimmery already, but the little spots of adhesive are a little shiny too. So then they end up blending into each other. Ooh. When I was thinking about making this video, I was like, what can I do to make it short? Doing a whole layout is not short. Probably no matter what I do. Oh, okay. While I'm putting this together, I don't know if you can see it there, I purposely put my adhesive in from the edge a little bit on this piece because when we cut up these red banners, I'm going to tuck them behind a little bit. And I want to make sure, oh, okay, yeah. This is probably the real way it goes, right side up. But I just want to make sure there's plenty of room for my red banners to tuck behind. So that's why I scooted the adhesive in a little bit. Also, the repositionable will help in this situation because I'm not exactly sure where to place them to line them up nicely. There we go. That's the way I want my stars lined up. And I'm gonna basically center it like on the little seam of where these two pieces are meeting, where these two photo mats are hanging out. Gosh, I love the dark blue with the stars. So pretty. So patriotic. I love it. Okay, scissors. I'm gonna cut the 3 segments apart. I'm down with that idea for this piece. That's where we're gonna start. And then we're gonna see how much more we need. And again, I think if you followed the instructions a little better, you could maybe do the 2 and 3 cuts like they suggest and have enough banner for that. But because I did mine weird, I'm going to end up probably needing more than what they suggest in the layout. I've got the bigger circle, so I'm going to need more pieces to go all the way around is what I mean. And that's fine. We'll work it out. I do have some scraps left over from that piece, and I think I've got enough that I could punch out some more banners like this if I need them. I'm just going to start kind of, you can see on the example, they've got the little sticker right there, sort of at the spot where these meet, which is, by the way, a great place to put a sticker or embellishment or title, a little bit of words, whatever, because it helps tie those things together. But that's also where I'm going to start placing my pieces. And I'm going to just line them up enough so the corners are not showing. Just tuck them in just that much. And then if I have a little bit of a gap right here where a sticker is going to be, I think I can cover that up with a sticker or embellishment. Okay. So that's kind of how I'm going to put all my pieces in. Maybe a little better than that first one, but that's okay. And my doggy is walking around again, checking out all my scraps and stuff, seeing what we're doing. I'm sure she is jealous she can't scrapbook also. Ha, just kidding. I know she doesn't care. She just wishes I gave her some more treats. I'm trying to decide how close I want that to be. But I think I'm okay with this, where the red is overlapping, but I'm not actually overlapping the little stripe part. So it's a little bit of a funky shape right now. And maybe I want to trim that. I think I do. I think that might bug me later. So, repositionable tape. Let me reposition. And when I say it's a little bit of a weird shape, I don't know if you can see that, but it's just got a little bit of a lip on it. I'm gonna, because I just cut them straight, I'm just gonna cut it so it's curved. Looks a little more intentional right there. I'll leave that one alone. It's not bugging me as much. Oh, good. You guys hear the puppy snores on the video? I don't know if you can, but she just decided to come lay down by me. And with bulldogs, I mean, they're so cute and they're just so sweet. They're the nicest dogs, but they snore like crazy. Silly doggies. Yeah, her snore is not actually that loud right now, but it sometimes gets much worse than this. Once in a while, my husband gets really bugged by them when they sleep in our bedroom at night, and he has to kick them out because they're just being so loud. Oh, cute puppy. Okay, and I'm getting to the, just because I put this large piece kind of close to the edge, I'm going to probably have to trim a little bit of that off, especially on the next piece that goes here. And I'm definitely not getting it all the way around this circle with just one of these cut up banners. So I'm going to have to cut the second one, and I'll just do the same thing I did with this, cut some segments of 3. and see how it goes. If I'm gonna do a similar thing on the other side with that other large-ish circle that I cut out, or partial circle, I won't need to go around the whole thing because I only got about half a circle showing. Ooh. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that comes together. Okay, glad that little bit is kind of going in there. Yeah, I'll just trim with my scissors when I'm done going around this circle. I'll just trim off that little bit that's hanging off the edge of the paper. It's not very much. In fact, it maybe wouldn't matter at all. Maybe it's not even going to bug me, but maybe I'll leave it. Maybe. We'll see how much it's bugging me later. Okay, pull that up a little so I can get it nice and tucked in its spot. Okay, we're ready for a couple more. Looks like one, possibly two. Two will actually be a little bit too big. My dog keeps going in and out and in and out. I think it's because normally if I'm sitting here at the table or on my computer, I'm just sitting quietly and typing. Maybe I'm listening to a podcast or something, watching a video. And when I'm recording, I'm talking and it's disturbing her. So she's like, I gotta get out of here. You're making too much noise. Or my little clicky tape. Maybe she doesn't like that sound. But she'll probably come back and join me again. Our dogs really, really like to be by their people. So if they can, that's what they want to do all day long. Just sit here with us. Okay, I'm gonna think about this because, like I said, we're probably gonna put some stickers right there, a sticker or some stickers. Some of these might be large enough to just cover up that whole cap. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm not gonna put anything there yet. Let me see how this other page is working. And like I said, I'm gonna wanna line these up. So before I set that page aside, let's do that. So lining up approximately where my photo mats are gonna go. This is kind of, I mean, they had lined them up more or less like this with the top of each photo, of each top photo mat lining up. I don't love how much that covers up down here, so I think I'm gonna go the opposite way and start lining up from the bottom of the bottom photo mat. And you could definitely do a different layout. Like if you wanted to swap these around and have them sit a different way, why not? Do whatever you like. Make it work for you. Make it work for your photos and the layouts you're making. I have a fun group of scrapbookers who come crop with me about once a month. Not everybody comes all the time. But I've got a handful of people who just don't like to do the photo mats on their project recipes almost ever, because they rarely know at the time we're making the project or recipe, they hardly ever know yet what photos they're gonna include. So maybe they're gonna have some bigger photos, maybe the orientation of the photos will be different than the orientation of the mats. So I tend to attach my photo mats and then make my photos work for it later, or print in some different sizes and orientations. But I understand if people want to do it the other way and wait and maybe save that piece of shimmery white until you know what your photo sizes are going to be, and you could custom cut your mats to match those sizes instead of the sizes on the project recipe. Okay, so this is the banner going at the top of this mat. And because this one was not complete, it's not the high point of the border, and it doesn't come all the way to the top at that edge. But I just lined up the tops of the high points against the top of the mat. I'm gonna wait to adhere these down for still just a minute while I'm thinking about how that all goes. Okay. So if we're gonna go around this, we're gonna probably need 1, 2, 3, possibly a 4th, or at least part of a 4th. So it looks like this is going to be enough to circle around here. And maybe I don't even need to cut all of it up, but I will. I'll cut them into all the segments of the 3 little flags. Okay, so let's get this attached. And I have to think again about which is the right direction. I think this is the right direction for the stars to go. And then where that's going to be in relation to this. I think that's probably good. I'm going to scoot it in just a tiny bit more. So all this weird shape is going to get covered up. I won't worry about that. And if you are more careful and better at following instructions on the project recipe sheet, you will not have this problem. Okay. You can just follow their instructions and cut them to the sizes they say, and your banners will go together more the way the example looks. Mine is slightly different, which is fine. I'll have to, when I teach this project recipe at our July crop, and this is July of 2023, by the way, if you're listening to this or watching this a lot later. When I teach this at our crop, I'll have to let people know I did way different sizes for my circles, and they may want to choose to do theirs more the way the project recipe says. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they like the way I did mine and they want to do it that way. And then I can just say, well, just follow the medium, or use the medium pattern for everything. If you do like the way this looks instead of the project recipe, again, the way we got this size circle on the blue was to use the red blade on the outside track of the medium-sized circle pattern. How cute is that red stripes, by the way? So I was just looking at thinking, that would be adorable if you did your banners that way. I should have maybe thought about that. That would have been really cute. But I've already attached most of them down, so I'm not gonna undo it at this point. Anyway, good options all around. With the project recipes, a lot of times the designs use some specific papers from a specific pack, and you may or may not be able to get that exact paper at the time you're doing the project recipe yourself. So it's fun to experiment with different options and see. I'm getting a little sticky over here. See what else you like together. But yeah, that red and white stripe from that Stars and Stripes page would have been adorable for these banners too. I'd love to see what you do with this project recipe if you're making this at some point. Even if you're doing something totally different based on the idea from this project recipe, I just think it's so fun to have all the options and like, I'm doing mine pretty close to how they did theirs, but man, you could do it just a little bit different and have it turn out a lot different looking, especially if you're using a different collection, different colors. If you're, like I mentioned, I thought this would be so cute for birthday. If you're doing something birthday themed, or different colors because it's for a birthday or graduation or something like that. This would be, I think that would just turn out so cute. And yeah, same idea, but different result. Could be using the same punches, the same shapes and sizes, and end up with something that actually looks very, very different with some different colors and patterns. That's another reason why project recipes are fun. They're good tools to have in your scrapbooker tool chest. You can find a recipe you really like. Maybe it has like a number and orientation of photos that you use a lot, that you end up with. Like maybe you take tons of landscape photos. Maybe you like to get 6 photos on your layout all the time, or whatever. And if you find kind of a formula that works well for you. Oh, I'm realizing I put on those stars a tiny bit crooked. Because now that this is lined up, oh, it's fine. Is that gonna bug me later? Maybe. Nitpicky, I know. I'm gonna rotate this just a tiny bit because try not to pull up any of those other pieces. But now that I've got my other one right next to it, I can see I didn't line up my stars very straight. Let's see. Okay, so that's possibly a little straighter. Well, repositionable tape helped me avoid a small mismatch in alignment that was probably going to bug me. My husband's so funny. He's a woodworker. Just as a hobby, he likes to do woodworking, and sometimes he'll hear a scrapbooking video that I'm watching, or I'm talking about instructions for something. And he's always like, that's a lot like woodworking, except that in woodworking you have to be totally precise because a lot of things you cannot change later, which is understandable. And same with some scrapbooking things, that happens. There are some things that become permanent and unchangeable, but not a lot. But he gets bugged when things don't match up exactly on the scrapbook layouts or in the videos even. It's not even necessarily something I'm making, but something I'm watching, and he's like, why didn't they do it this way? Why didn't they measure that again before they cut it, or whatever? Which I'm always guilty of too. I cut things without measuring a bunch of times because that's a lot of extra work. I think that's okay. And I'm gonna just line this up here, and then I think I will do some sort of sticker or embellishment or something here. Let me see. Did this, is that gonna be weird? Oops, yes, because I'm putting it on upside down. That is gonna be weird. Just wondering if that needs to be there to cover up that little gap. Nah, you can't even really hardly see it. Kind of looks like maybe there should have been something else there, but honestly, not a big of a deal. Okay, so this is gonna come right up against the side of the red, and I'm gonna hoist it up a little taller than, a little higher than what the example had, but that's just how it worked with my pieces. And look, you would never know. That's not a full circle that I weirdly cut my paper that way. Okay, so here's our 2 pages. I know you're probably not getting the full view of the 2 sides. I'm not gonna worry about cutting off the little nubs that hang off the edge right now. If you cut your circles smaller or shift everything in a little bit more, you won't have this overhang like I did over here.